bunch of you said you play role-playing games like D&D, Palladium-based games and whatnot, and whatever the heck, Catch a Predator.
They may have been making a joke, I think. I hope.
Possibly.
I hope.
So, since we're at Tabletop Cafe, Tabletop...
I guess Game Cafe.
Game
Tabletop
Cafe.
Game Cafe, no bar.
Okay. There's no bar, okay.
No. There is a bar.
There is a bar.
Sort of.
Yeah. So I figured we would have someone who frequents this place a lot, my friend and game developer, RORY.
Is that Dan Harmon? Sorry.
What? Him?
Harmon Place?
Me?
Someone said, "Is this Dan Harmon?"
Do I look? I don't know what Dan Harmon looks like.
I don't know. He doesn't really look like Dan Harmon. No, it's not Dan Harmon. His name's Roy McLeod, and he's developing a role-playing game called Infinite Galaxies. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Infinite Galaxies?
Sure. So Infinite Galaxies is a sci-fi action RPG. It's based on a system called Powered by the Apocalypse. If you guys have played anything like Apocalypse World or Dungeon World or Monster Hearts or Urban Shadows, those are all Powered by the Apocalypse games. So the concept is that as opposed to your traditional role-playing game where the kind of dungeon master or game master creates everything ahead of time, in a story game, the players and the game master collaborate on the creation of the game, and the players drive the action. So the game master's role is mostly to react to what the players do and how successful they are in their roles and stuff like that, and then kind of improvise through the game. And so it's not as much of a prepared session. In fact, you can run the whole game with zero prep if you really wanted to. This is a game that's in development. It's been in development for 3 years now, and the Kickstarter to make it a real game is in January, so it's coming up.
And what makes your game unique over other similar games?
So it is, everything is integrated into the core mechanic. So anything you do in the game, whether you're exploring or doing social things or space combat or lifting a mask off of your face, you use the same mechanic. So it's super easy to jump into different situations. Like if you're having a space combat and you're having a combat on the ship itself, you can use the same rules to handle all of that stuff together. You could be fighting on top of a land speeder and then be piloting the land speeder through some crazy situation, so one guy's piloting and other people are fighting, and it all uses the same rules, so it's super easy to jump back and forth between different things. The intention of the game is to allow you to run many different types of sci-fi games. So it's not like Star Trek or Star Wars focused. It allows you to do a bunch of different types of games. You could have like a game that's sort of like Dune. You could have a game that's sort of like Starship Troopers. You could have your Star Trek, that sort of a game. So the intention was to give you like a basis to then run the type of game you want to run.
So how does the interaction between the players and the GM differ between this and traditional role-playing games?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, a traditional role-playing game, the game master comes in with a lot of material. So they'll have like, this is my setting, these are this is the adventure that I have created for tonight's game, and then the players are expected to just interact with that. So the difference here is that the game master comes in with perhaps the kernel of a story idea. Maybe we'll do a game about a robot, rebellion, or you guys are all on a ship and then it's getting ready to crash, or whatever. Just whatever kind of sci-fi thing you want. And so the players say, yeah, okay, so my characters are interested in doing this, and so you kind of work together to come up with what you guys are going to do tonight. So that's the main difference, is that the amount of prep, literally you can come in and do no prep at all. Just come in and say, hey, let's play Infinite Galaxies tonight, and you can totally do it.
Yeah.
There will be things in the book that will, if you're new, or if you're maybe not as comfortable with running things, maybe it's your first time GMing or whatever. There's plenty of advice in there for things that you could do. There's things that, like, here's some suggestions on how to handle certain situations. So I'm writing the book from the point of view that I'm expecting a lot of people to be fairly new to role-playing games or running games. So the GM section is actually pretty big. And that's intentional.
You have a Facebook.
Yep.
page, and you have a Google Plus page.
I do, but nobody really. Nah, I mean, I don't really have anybody on. There's like 5 people on there.
So, and your website too. You have a website.
I have a website, so if you go to www.infinitegalaxies.net, you can download all the materials to play the game. So you can, if you go there and click on downloads, there's PDFs. You can download all kinds of cool stuff there. And play the game. You can actually play the game. There's some stuff you probably won't understand because there isn't like the rules aren't there, but there you go, beautiful. But all the playbooks are there, so those are like the characters. All of the equipment and vehicles and a lot of that stuff is there. So you could theoretically play the game. So once the Kickstarter is done, I'll probably take down all that stuff. But the Kickstarter backers will then have access to materials. So I will be publishing occasionally chapters and things as they get done so that they can see the progress and, maybe play some games and stuff.
And your price range is probably around, like $10 for the PDF or so?
Yeah, I think the PDF is going to be 10 or 15, and then the download. Oh yeah, the question from Zap is the download packet is everything. So if you click on the download packet, that is all the characters and the move sheets and the equipment and some GM stuff. There's another download called the Move Packet, which is just 4 sets of moves all together. That's easier to print out if you want to have like a group real quick. So anyway, how newcomer friendly is it? Very newcomer. I've run the game for a lot of people that were brand new, even to role playing. Like they never done any role playing, right? Like
Eugene.
Eugene was in a group we played with a couple weeks ago with tons of new people. In fact, this guy was the only one I think who'd ever played before, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I've run the game probably 80 or 90 times by now, and I'd say about half the time it was people who were either brand new to role playing or to this game. So yeah. Mm-hmm. I would say it's very newcomer friendly. The language is, there's not a lot of jargon in there. There's not a gamer jargon. If you read the moves, I mean, they all are just normal language, so it's not like you're faced with a bunch of weird lingo. So I would say pretty friendly to newcomers.
It's very simple. It's very narrative. The whole game mechanics are based off of 2d6 if you succeed or fail. So it's basically, there's 3 outcomes to rolling 2d6.
They want a Kickstarter link.
You either succeed.
It's not up yet.
Yeah, the Kickstarter's not up yet. It's coming out. We'll post it on the Knuckle Pancake Squad Facebook when it goes up.
Yeah, it's going to be January. It'll be January, so yeah, I'll definitely be keeping up with these guys, so you'll know.
Yeah. So you roll 2d6. If you get a 6 or under, you fail, whatever you're doing. 7 through 9, you partially succeed, which means you could succeed, but the GM's going to offer you some, the game master, the person running the game, is going to offer you some sort of trade. It could be damage, it could be a negative consequence in the storyline. Something will happen that they have to barter with you. And if you roll a 10 plus, then you succeed, generally with no consequence. So that's the whole system.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about this, so every time you roll, there's a consequence. Like something happens. So it's not like some games, like in D&D, you might say, oh, everybody make a perception check. You would not want to do that because every time somebody fails, there's a bad consequence for the group. So it could be that someone takes damage. It could be that some new enemy appears that you didn't know was going to come, or something explodes and you have to go deal with that, or so you don't always want to roll, and there's always a consequence. So every time the GM says roll, there's a risk of something bad happening.
Right. So also what differentiates this from D&D and traditional role-playing games, the GM doesn't technically have an initiative. They don't have like a turn order they go in. If you fail on your roll, or there's a critical point in the story, or you fail to act, that's when the GM goes.
Yeah.
So it's not like, okay, I'm going to attack this guy over here, or this goblin or orc, and then the orc's going to attack me.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. I'm going to enter combat with this orc. I'm going to roll these dice and see what the outcome is.
Yeah, the great thing about combat is it's all from the player's side. So if Elliot's fighting a robot and he misses, the robot can just do damage to him. There's no die roll. Because there has to, like I said, there has to be a negative consequence. So if he fails, the robot just punches him or shoots him or whatever. Like so the GM doesn't actually roll dice. Like when I'm running the game, I don't roll any dice. I just improv the whole thing off of what they do.
Right.
So, our favorite? What's your favorite class? The Explorer?
The Explorer.
Yeah, he likes the Explorer. I don't know why. I think you're the only one who likes the Explorer.
I like it.
It's different.
It's a versatile class.
Oh, it
can
is,
go into very dangerous areas and survive.
Yeah, one of the cool things about this versus other Powered by the Apocalypse games, I don't know how familiar you guys are with those, but in a lot of those games, the playbooks, which are basically the characters, they are kind of fixed. Like you have some abilities at the beginning, but you always have the same ones, right? In Infinite Galaxies, you have different packages of abilities. So you start off, if you're the robot, you can be a combat robot or a social robot or a navigation robot.
Yeah.
Or if you're the soldier, you can be like a like a sergeant kind of guy, or a medic, or so you have different options to boot. And then when you advance, you can pick up other moves, so you can kind of diversify your character if you want to kind of be more useful to the group, or you can specialize in something that you're already good at. You can get advancements that make you even better at that, but really the cool thing about advancement in this game is you don't get like really exponentially better, like powerful, but what you get are more options.
It's more lateral advancement.
Yeah, I mean there's a little bit of vertical, but it's mostly just like more options. So like if you're the Jack, who's kind of like the thief character, you might get the ability to hack computers later on. So that gives you an additional ability you didn't have before.
Right.
Or if you want to be the pistolier, then you get better at shooting the pistols or whatever, right? Yeah.
So I was like wondering about the Explorer, right?
Right.
You said they like the Explorer a lot. He goes through like some really tricky territory, can navigate it very well.
Yeah.
And so what I'm wondering is, from the last time you played with Rory, I'm guessing you picked the Explorer, right?
I was the leader last time.
Last time we played, yeah.
So could you tell us a little more about the time that you played the Explorer and it was very advantageous for you? Could you like paint that picture for us?
Yeah.
You play this one?
Think.
It's been a while.
Yeah. It's definitely my favorite class. I'm trying to remember when I played it last. I think I was specialized in like bounty hunting, one of the packages.
And so what does that mean, specializing in bounty hunting?
So tracking people. So
Okay.
Narratively, you're able to like
Like find people.
like
find things. So like
Yeah.
if their group is looking for something, then the explorer can go and like they make a roll and see if they can figure out where it is.
Okay.
Which is like assumes a lot of narrative stuff, like they're out in the wilderness and they're tracking or they're exploring and shit like that. And maybe the other characters aren't really good at that, but it's okay because he's there.
Okay.
So he's the lead like dude.
So does he like dodge consequences? Like how exactly?
He could. It
Like
depends
what
on how
exactly
well he
is so
rolls.
good about him
Well,
going out by himself?
Because
or
because he has a move that specifically says when you do X,
Yeah.
you roll. So if the soldier could do it too, but since he doesn't have a cool move, he would get like a kind of a lesser version of that success. Like he wouldn't be as good at it as the explorer. He could still do it.
So you could find like, for instance, maybe like a hidden weakness on an enemy. Is that something
The
like
explorer can do that.
The explorer could.
soldier sort of, but not right off the bat. Like the explorer has a cool like find weakness move. Like literally, that's one of the
Yeah.
that? That's one. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, the explorer
Like a
just
hunter.
can take in the environment a lot more, can have a better understanding of
Yeah.
what's going on, what's
Yeah.
specific, and stuff like that.
But now the cool thing about the game is that so the explorer is really good at some of those things, but there's other classes that can do some of the things the explorer does.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the explorer in the group, like one of the versions of the leader is like a survivalist. So they're good
Okay.
at like foraging for stuff, which the explorer can also do, and he's better at it. But if you need to do that and you have a leader in your group, you can sort of do it.
So you don't need an explorer in your group.
no.
The leader could be a survivalist, for example.
And,
There are other
and the
things
same
that
thing,
could
there's
be.
no healing class. There's characters that can heal, but there's like 3 of them out of 8. So it's
Okay.
not like you need a specific guy.
Right, like a scientist
to
is
heal.
a doctor.
So
Right.
So I'm hearing there's decent amount of room for like hybrid-esque characters, so to
Yes.
speak.
Right.
And you don't necessarily like there is some specialization, but it's not necessarily like this person's awesome at one thing and then they're completely awful at everything else.
No one's off. No, and one of the cool things about it is, let's say you guys are on a spaceship, okay, and you're like, oh, okay, we're in trouble. There's pirates attacking us, whatever. I want to get on the guns. You actually use the ship's stats to fire the guns, so it doesn't matter who does it. It doesn't matter if the scientist could shoot the guns just as well as anybody else.
Unless
which is
you're
really
the
cool.
ace.
Right, yeah. There's a character who's like good at piloting and stuff. He
Yeah.
actually starts with his own ship. That's like his cool thing. He gets a ship.
Yeah.
So, so there's a lot of diversification. Plus, when you advance, you can take moves from other playbooks. So if he's the explorer, he's like, I actually really get a healer move. No one in the freaking group wants to be a healer. I'll pick up a healer move, and he can go grab one from another class.
Okay, so the explorer can do that, can anyone
Anybody
else?
can do
Anyone.
it.
Anyone can do that.
Well, the robot can't do it, but there's a reason for that.
So we talked about Elliot. He likes the explorer a lot.
Yeah.
because he can like learn the environment and what's going on and whatnot.
Yeah.
What do you think your favorite class is?
Huh.
Or what did you? I guess.
It's hard for me. I designed the game. I like all of them.
Let me take a step back then.
Yeah.
How about this? Can you recall at least maybe one or two instances that you found someone using characters in a very interesting way and you were like surprised in yourself, like, oh, that's a fantastic way to use that. I never thought about it as the GM.
Some of the classes, like the Psi and stuff, because they have mental powers, that you can sometimes come up with some cool things using the mental powers.
Okay.
For example, one of the options is a telekinetic.
Yep.
And so we had a character who, they were in a ship, but there were ships attacking them. And he said, can I use my telekinesis to like knock an asteroid into one of the ships attacking us?
Okay.
And the description of their telekinesis just says, if you want to move a large object, it just takes more effort, basically. And it doesn't say how large the object is. So, yes, totally. So you just rolled and they did it, and boom, they hit the other. Didn't destroy it, but they hit it, and they were able to be useful.
Yeah. And once I played a scientist inventor, I was a bug race.
Yep.
Sort of insect race, and I made a bomb out of stuff I found in a galley on a spaceship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other cool thing is, so in this game, the species that you are, it's assumed that you're a human unless you pick something else. But really, it has a very low impact on the game. So in some games like D&D, your race is like half of your abilities. In Infinite Galaxies, your species is just a benefit that you get, like one single benefit that you get. So, for example, you might get, like in a certain situation, you get a bonus, or you get an extra option in certain situations. So a lot of them are things like that. So they're not going to break the game. If you decide you want to play an alien, it's no big deal.
Can you play a space alien monster pet? Chat wants to know.
Totally.
Chan wants to know.
Totally.
We also had a question: how long does the initial setup usually take?
So I would say if everybody is brand new, if everybody in the group is brand new, including the GM, probably about 40 minutes to explain everything. If that's what you mean by setup. So that means everyone picking a character, the game master explaining the rules to everybody, probably about 40 minutes, I would say, if everyone's brand new. If you've all played before, or a lot of people have played before, you can cut that time in half probably, because when you start playing it, the mechanic starts making sense, and it doesn't take a lot of explanations.
Okay.
Even people that don't really pay attention that much, if you have like casual players, it's not hard to pick up. It's really
Perfect for me,
Yeah.
because I'm terrible at paying attention.
You don't have to.
So something I'm also wondering is that what's really neat about this is kind of like this idea that you're not really confound too much. And I think, do you feel that aspect really plays into like the beginner, casual, anyone can pick this up sort of thing?
Yes.
Like okay, so I guess my question is, have you ever seen that backfire, that kind of freedom?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense. So, I mean, I've been pretty lucky. Most of the time, I'm playing with people that I already kind of know, so I haven't had a lot of people that were trying to abuse things. But I mean, it's possible, sure, because it's a player-driven sort of system.
Yeah.
It's possible, but you do have to roll dice. So sometimes you'll just fail. I mean, I would do something outrageous. I mean, the GM still has the power to say no if it's impossible. Like, I want to just fly around. It's like, well, you can't fly. I mean, you don't have the ability to do that. But if it's something reasonable, the GM should let them try. Totally.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's possible for people to try. I suppose. I haven't personally had that happen, but, I mean, that's possible in any role-playing game.
Well, you've also hosted it at various gaming conventions.
Yep, I've run it at the last 3 Origins. I had somebody run it at Gen Con without my knowledge, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I didn't go to Gen Con. And someone told me they played it at Gen Con, and I'm like, how? What happened? So it's spreading, and I think the fact that I make the materials available online probably has something to do with it.
Oh, yeah,
that,
definitely.
That's great. Yeah, Troll Shroud. It's definitely a game you can just pick up and play between D&D sessions. It's less intensive. It's more narrative, so you just have to remember the narration and any detail. The level of detail of the storyline is really up to the game master and players.
Yeah.
Are there any are there any cheat sheets, so to speak, created online yet that help people keep track of what's important?
Well, so the character sheets have a lot of that on there.
Okay.
And they're available online. There is, in the download packet, there's a GM screen sort of a thing where I just created some helpful notes and stuff for game masters. So definitely look at that if you're brand new. That sheet includes all the principles. So these are the things the GM is supposed to be doing during the game. There's some sample like enemies and stuff in there. And the last page is a bunch of like, if you can't think of something, like if I need a group of people, there's like a list of sample people, places, and things that are
Okay.
useful in case you run it. They're like stuck. Oh, we're looking for a, I don't know, boom, space
Yeah.
opera.
How many scenarios do you guys have
None.
so far? Huh?
None.
None?
None.
None. So you think? Are you concerned about that at all?
No.
Having no scenarios.
These kind of games don't typically have pre-made adventures. Story games
Okay.
usually don't, because the thing is, the game is so much built by the GM and the players that you really wouldn't necessarily want that. Now, one thing we are going to do in the Kickstarter is we're going to have some of our game designer friends create some materials for the game. They're going to create like some settings or some cool like star systems or organizations and stuff, and that's going to be one of the stretch goals in the Kickstarter. So people that have written other games like this, so
Yeah.
published game authors, are going to contribute stuff to the game. So
Okay.
that'll be cool.
Yeah, that does sound
And there
pretty
will
awesome.
be setting stuff in the book.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a default setting. If you don't have your own setting, if you just want to play sci-fi and don't really care, there's a default setting in the game called Star Patrol, which is kind of a generic sci-fi. It's set in the real universe, but there's a lot of like cool made-up stuff too, like aliens and stuff, right? But it's set in our own universe. So there's an Earth, there's a Mars, there's all that stuff. And there's a lot of other star systems that really exist that really do have planets, but we don't know anything about them in the real
Right.
world, so I just added stuff, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's great.
So that's all there if you want it, and if you don't, you can nix all that and create your own, your own setting if you want, or, yeah.
Sounds good. All right, guys.
If you were to give one sentence describing Infinite Galaxies and like trying to really hook people, what would you say?
I would say it's a sci-fi action RPG that allows you to, create and run your own sci-fi world.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming by, Rory.
Yeah, no problem.
We'll definitely try to get this up online, at least the audio. So.
Yep.
Yeah, no, we can definitely. Yeah, that's not gonna be a problem. I don't think.
Yeah.
Getting that, cutting it off and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the Kickstarter will be in January, so
January.
we'll give an
All right.
update. Yep.
We'll definitely cross post it. Infinite Galaxies again.
Official RPG of the Knuckle Pancake Squad.
Yep. Now, Randall, the game can actually run as long as you guys can basically stay creative. You can just continuously. So,
It's
how
about
the
4
game
hours,
works,
usually.
you get experience points that you have to expand up to a certain amount, and then once you expend the experience points, you can choose to upgrade your character basically, and you can just keep leveling up and taking upgrades until you fill out your entire upgrade sheet, which is a lot
Yeah.
of
That'll never happen.
things. So
There's so many options. That'll never
yeah.
happen.
No.
Chad, thanks for your time.
Yeah, they said thank you. Thanks
Oh,
for
do you want
stopping
a lot of
by.
Do you want your phone?
All right, guys, we're going to get off YouTube mode, throw some music on, and
Stop recording.
stop.